My lords, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Japan themed playthrough on Transport Fever 2. In the previous episode we made a start with our company. We set up our first handful of freight lines. We had one that was running grain down to a food production plant, and then as we can see in the distance we set up our first train to haul the produced food into a cargo interchange near the city of Uejima. And as you can see there in the distance, the train is just making its way along its line there quite nicely, and we're starting this episode against this little, what I would assume is a little temple out here in this little hillside. Rather picturesque. I spotted it while we were doing the outro train ride at the end of episode 1, and I wanted to come and have a quick look at it, and it's a rather beautiful little structure here, so I thought we'd start our episode here admiring this and looking at the views afforded to the inhabitants of this temple. As we can see, they're treated to a rather spectacular view of all the hillsides and mountainsides covered in trees, and there in the near distance we have one of our towns. Still not learnt the names of the towns and their placements, so I'm not sure what town that is, but as soon as we bring up the user interface we will of course be treated to the town name, so let's do that now. So that town right there is Izumimachi. I haven't gone through and practiced any of the town name pronunciations yet, so you will have to bear with me as I continue to no doubt butcher all the pronunciations on these town names, and once again I do offer my apologies for that. So what are we planning on doing today? Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not entirely sure. We have our first line set up, as we can see here, that skirts around Uejima on its way between the food processing plant and what will hopefully eventually become a rather busy freight exchange here, serving these various industries and the 3 cities nearby. Now, a quick line that we could put together is another delivery line from the food processing plant into the town of Iwanamori. Given the close proximity of the town to the industry, we would just use road vehicles for that, and given how quick it is to set up, I think that's what we will do first of all. So let's go ahead and treat ourselves to a new truck station down here. We only need the one platform for this, and we'll go for 30 meters straight away, and we'll put that just right nestled against the side of the industry like so. That will be perfectly fine. And we'll just quickly rename this as well, and we shall call this the Iwanamori food plant. I believe that's what we're calling the other, food production, close enough. So we need a drop-off point in the town of Iwanamori itself, of course. So let's see, where is the food required? Well, it's not too far, and I think the plan is we'd have our trucks come down here, up here, and we'd drop off just before the junction there, and that will quite comfortably reach all of the commercial buildings in that area. So let's get that line set up straight away. From there to there, nice and simple. And we're colouring it that colour, and of course we want these to be fully loaded at the truck station. And they are not unloading anything there, but they are loading up the food, of course. And we'll name this line the food delivery line, and this is Iwanomori. Just copying there off the line above, make sure we get it all spelt correctly. There we go, so that's our second food delivery line. So now we need to get some vehicles for that. I don't think we'll need many, I think we'll just start with 4 to begin with. And again we'll colour those and set them on that line. And out they come, wonderful. One thing I have done, I think I did this on camera now that I think about it, is I have doubled the amount of road vehicles we have running between the rice paddy up there and the food production plant down here. So that's going to increase the throughput of the rice coming, well, it's not actually rice in game, but given how the the farm is situated and the level of detail that the map author went into, we will call it rice. So yes, they're shipping rice down here, and that's doubled our throughput down here. As we can see, however, we're still running a little bit short, so having more road vehicles on this delivery line is probably not a bad idea. And in fact, I'm going to be bold and say we'll just double it and have 40 of those. And I think that'll be perfectly fine. So as it stands now, we're very short on money, as we can see, just 400,000 yen, and we are actually losing money at the moment there, 176 per year negative. So let's just have a look at our lines here and see where our biggest money sink is. Well, at the minute it's this train here, and I think that's quite understandable. It's an early era game train, so it's always going to struggle. It's not got the speed, it hasn't got the power, and you're not really going to be able to put many more freight wagons on the back of that without seriously hampering the train's performance, and we can test that right now. So at the moment we have 5 boxcars, and that's in the mediocre range. We could maybe get away, let's have a look, what's the speeds here, 28 and 15, and the 28 is in 93 seconds. If we put 2 on, we can't afford it. Well, I think we could probably absorb that. Obviously we can't afford it, however, which is a big problem, and we've already maxed out our loan, so there's nothing we can do about that for now. But once this makes its next delivery, hopefully we'll have a nice bit of money to play with. Let's see, how much does it make per delivery? Let's see if we can figure this out here. Assuming it's making 1 per year, which I imagine it is, then we're looking at 232,000. So let's just wait for him. In fact, what we'll do is we'll go to 4 times game speed just to get ourselves access to a few more funds so we can do some more expansion. As we can see, the bus line that we set up in Uwajima is already proving exceptionally popular. We have one overcrowded station with almost 100 people waiting there already. So I think what we'll do, because we can quite comfortably afford this, is we'll double the amount of horse and carts we have running through Iwajima, just to get these people moving a little bit faster and hopefully get a little bit more money into our coffers. Now, I've just had a little thought there and a think about what we can do next. Now, we have a few quarries up in these mountains here surrounding Iwanomori, and I'm quite tempted to have road vehicles run the quarried stone down into this freight station here, and then have a second line which shares this track. Obviously we will need passing points at various places, that comes into here and drops off the stone. And then what we would do is we would have road access over this little river delta here, and then we'd have road vehicles just shipping the stone into either of these 2 brick production plants right here. And that'll be a good way to generate a bit of money, and it should be fairly cheap to set up. The bridge over the mouth of the river might be a little bit expensive, but it shouldn't be overly so. Setting up the road delivery line to get the quarried stone down here, that wouldn't be too much of a problem, and it wouldn't be too expensive. We would have to incorporate a second platform here for this, but again, wouldn't be prohibitively expensive at this point, and putting down a few passing loops at various points along this line shouldn't be too expensive either. For now, we can have both of the lines use the one platform. After all, they're only dropping off resources, they're not picking anything up, so there's no waiting time for them to be loaded. There might be a little bit of wait time depending where we have our passing loops, but it's not anything that's really gonna grind our lines to a complete standstill. So if we wanted to do that, then one of the first things we're going to want to do is see how much the bridge over this river inlet would actually cost us. So let's go ahead and just experiment here, and we'll have a look. What sort of price are we going to be looking at? Well, for that bridge, which obviously we're not going to have because it's invisible, It's 10,000. If we have that bridge, it's a lot more expensive at 271,000. That's not too bad, however. Obviously, it's not as much. It's a lot worse than the 10,000 for the invisible bridge, but we're not having an invisible bridge because it would just look bad. So we'll wait until we get to around about 350, I think, and once we get to 350, we'll build our bridge over here, because that will be probably the most expensive part of this. Buying the train is also going to be very expensive as well, but in terms of the infrastructure, it is the bridge that we want to get out of the way, because that's the one that's going to hold us back. So for the time being, it is pretty much a case of just waiting around for the money to accumulate. Hopefully it won't take too much longer. As we can see, we're now creeping into, well, just as I say that, we were creeping into a positive cash flow, but it's just dropped down into quite a substantial negative. However, our train is about to make a delivery now, and that should give us a nice income boost. Let's just open the cash flow screen actually and see how we're doing. So some years we are making a profit, as we can see, although it's by the slimmest of margins, and it is the railroad upkeep that is costing us here, and it's the upkeep of the train, of course. That's the problem with these early era trains. They're not powerful enough to be used as a single header, not for any great distance anyway. Oh, we have 500,000. What? In fact, would we be better off? I think we would be better off increasing the length of this train first of all. So if we do that, now as we said, 28 miles an hour to its top speed in 113 seconds isn't too bad. So we'll go for that, because that's going to give us a little bit more income every time it makes a delivery. We also need to consider how much it's going to cost us to expand this station here. Now, as we can see, we've got quite a few options thanks to the various mods that we have available. I'm guessing all those boxes with the question marks are Japanese characters, which are obviously not displaying correctly. So I'm not sure if there's any sort of warning on those. So I think what we shall do is we shall play it safe and stick to the standard tracks that we have here. Now it's going to cost us around about 20 to 30,000 per section of track that we want to put down. So we are going to have to wait until we've got a little bit more money before we expand that. We're also then going to need some money to put down the second platform. And there's no point just having the track if there's no platform assigned to it, of course. How are our lines doing now? So our rice haulage, which is obviously this line here, is now making us very nice profits after we doubled up to 40 vehicles. So that's really, really nice to see. The food delivery into Iwanamori is just operating at a small loss, but it's nothing too major. Now, I guess what's happening here is this food plant is prioritizing the food to be delivered into Uwajima because of the size of the town, so they're demanding more, so that takes the priority. That just leaves these vehicles waiting just a little bit longer than ordinarily we would like in order to get a full load. So what we'll do is we'll sell half of them. We have one on its way back now. Yes, that is one of them. And we'll just have the two. Rather than having them sat idle waiting, we'll just have two of them. As we can see, he's still waiting for his fourth and final unit of food to be assigned. We have plenty of the rice in store, so they are producing at a good rate. The only thing we're lacking on right now is a transportation, and that's because of this build up here on this platform. However, now that we've increased the length of this train, that should increase that transportation percentage just a little, and that should help us quite nicely. So what we'll do, so we don't motor through too fast, we'll pause the date progression. We'll just put a little cut in here until we get enough money to put our bridge down and our road and the various items of infrastructure assigned associated with these delivery lines that we are planning on putting in next. And then once we've got the money to do that, we'll start the building process. We might then have to put yet another cut in while we wait for enough money to buy a second train, which is going to be handling the delivery of the stone to this interchange here. And yeah, we'll do that in a cut so you're not sat around just watching it. So yes, I'll see you in what for you will be a matter of seconds, just while we build up the funds to start our expansion. Okay, so now that our train has made a delivery, we now have 500,000 yen in the bank, and that should be enough to put this bridge in that we need to gain quick access from our freight interchange to these industries over here. So let's go ahead and get it all laid out now. Now, we don't need to worry about keeping this little stretch of river open for shipping transportation, because we're not going to have anything running down here anyway, not that I can foresee. And if we do change our minds in the future, then it won't be too difficult to just quickly rebuild this bridge if needed. So for now, we will just have a nice shallow bridge like that. That's only costing 300,000, so we can afford that at the moment. So we'll buy that now while we are able to afford it. And then we'll put in a link road there. And then we need to have a link road. Why are you doing that? Why are you climbing up like that? You really don't need to do that. There, that's better. Keep the costs down where possible. And this road is going to serve as link road to this side of the bridge. There we go. So now we have a direct road route between the station and the industries. We are going to have to be mindful about sideways expansion on this station, and it may be that we need to just relocate some of these roads and truck stations, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. In fact, now that I think about it, we might, in fact, have it as a staggered station. So rather than all tracks starting at this point here, we might have it step in like that, so it just melds around the curvature of the roads. And that would be quite interesting, I think, and something a little bit different as well. Yes, I think we'll do that, but that's obviously a lot further down the line, and it's not something we're going to have to worry about anytime soon. So what we want to do now is go ahead, configure this, and we'll want to put down a second cargo platform like so. And this is obviously going to handle the stone that will be brought in to this station. There is the connection, obviously, we know that because we have food being transferred between the two already. And then the stone vehicles, the delivery vehicles for the stone, will run over here, over the bridge, and we'll have a drop-off point somewhere in this area. Let's see, where could we have it? If we had our drop-off point there, that would serve all 5 industries, which would be quite useful, and it would save quite a bit of money. And then if we just do a road like that, that should encourage the vehicles to then loop that way, so they're not doing U-turns on the streets. In fact, what we'll do, we'll test that now by setting up the line, even if we're not going to assign anything to it. And yep, it's doing exactly what I envisaged that it would do, if I can get my words out. So we'll colour that grey, and we'll get it all named up now ready, even if it's not going to have any vehicles on it for the time being. So this would be the stone haulage Uwajima. And we'll set up the delivery parameters. So we want it to be fully loaded. It's gone away, so let's try that. That's better. I'm not sure why that's... There we go, that's better, just to make sure. So you're only loading the stone, of course. Wonderful. I can live with that, no problem. So that's what the stone delivery line is going to look like. Obviously, we need to get a train to deliver the stone from here to here, and that is going to cost quite a bit of money, so we might have to wait a little while for that. However, what we can do is set up the pickup point for the stone at the quarry and have the drop-off point for the stone by the station. Again, we can't have any vehicles assigned to it yet, simply because there would be no demand for the stone down here at this point. So we're going to need a truck station. Yes, I am aware at the moment we can't afford it, but just so we have an idea as to what we're looking at, if we had it like that, we could then put a second access point on the left hand side of the station as we're looking, and that should link it automatically into that country road there just off to the left. And then what we'd have to do is put a tight turn between the termination of the road there just in front of the quarry into the access point on the right hand side. So to do that, we're looking for about 150,000 give or take. Obviously it might be a little bit different when we do place it, because it's not necessarily going to be put down in the exact same place we were just trying right there. So once again, it's a case of keeping the date paused and going to ×4 speed acceleration and waiting for the money to construct that. And in fact, what we might do is just wait until we have enough money so that we can purchase the train as well. Now, if we were to look at this train, for instance, it's going to cost us around about $1.5 million to buy the train for the stone. So we may be waiting a while, or I might be waiting a while. For you wonderful people, it should only be a matter of seconds, because thanks to the power of post-production editing, there will be a nice little jump cut, so you don't have to suffer the 10-minute wait that I'm going to have to put up with. Okay then, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and we have enough money now to purchase a rather small and flimsy looking train consisting of 1 locomotive and 3 carriages. That's going to cost us 831,000 yen. We have 840 available, so we can just about afford that with a bit of loose change left over. So let's go ahead and purchase that train straight away. There we go, and what we're going to do is we're going to colour it the colour of the line, which is a stone sort of colour, and assign it on the route. Now, as I was waiting for the money, I did spend little bits just to put in a few passing loops. We have one here, we have one here, and I have ever so slightly expanded this station here, as we can see. It's not a full length platform, but to get us started, it's going to work just fine. I've also got the vehicles for the road aspect of the lines ready to go, and we can see them here sat waiting patiently to be assigned to the line, so we can start those running as well straight away. Same over here, we have these ready to go here, so there we go. So that's all our vehicles up and running and now on the lines, so we should now start seeing the stone production up here. Indeed we are. So we know that things are working correctly so far. Now that train that we just purchased, it will obviously need to be expanded and lengthened over time, but just to get the ball rolling, we'll stick with just that very short train. Hopefully it will be profitable in its current state. It might not be, and if it's not, then we'll have to think about what we're going to do about that in the near future. So let's have a look at the train. Here it is. As we know, it's a very short train. You may notice there the signals, they are modded Japanese National Railway signals, so it's nice to have those there. You can see them just there as we pass by that one. And here we go. So now that we're free of that signal there, we should now behind us see the food production train start on its way as well, as our second train just pulls into its assigned platform. And as you see, it's a different style of platform here, and again this is provided by one of the Japanese railway mods, and I do like the style of this platform. So I think what we'll do is over time is we'll phase the vanilla platforms out, and instead we'll switch to these ones here, because I do think they look quite nice. Obviously this train is going to be waiting around for quite a while it waits for a full load. Our first 3 vehicles are on their way down now to supply the first lot, but that's only going to be 12 units of stone because these vehicles only carry 4 apiece. So while they're bringing down 12 units, he's waiting for 21. So essentially we're pretty much waiting for these to make 2 full round trips before this train will depart. Obviously it's going to take ever so slightly less then all 3 of these vehicles making 2 full round trips, but given how close together they are, it's pretty much going to be all 3 arriving at the same time on their second round trip. So we've started the date once again, as you can see in the bottom corner, and things are ticking over quite nicely. So here we can see our food haulage train has just arrived for its next full load before departing, and he's probably going to make 1 or 2 journeys before this train even departs on his first journey, but that's okay. So here come our stone carts now. So they are going to space themselves out just a little, which might cause a bit of a hold up on this line, but that's not a problem. We have some quite large spacings available between these rice delivery wagons, so that's fine. So there we go, we can see the train now has the first 12 units of stone, and I think what we'll do, we may as well send it on its way, and then by the time it gets back it should have at least another 12 there waiting for it. This train is well clear of this first passing loop, so the stone train can start on its way, although it's likely going to have to wait at this signal, because we need to wait for this train to clear this signal. Now we could of course put 2 signals on the midpoint of each passing loop, and we'll probably end up doing that at some point, but at the moment we can't afford it, thanks to that large expenditure we just had there on our new train, but that's no problem. So yes, this train is going to have to wait at this signal here. I suppose it's not the worst view in the world while you're waiting for clearance to depart. We can see the temple there for Uwajima in the distance, looking rather dominant over the Uwajima skyline. Obviously that's not going to stay that way as time progresses. We're going to start seeing lots of high rises in this city, I have no doubt. One other small change I have made in Uwajima is I noticed that these 2 busy stops here, this one Kofu Road and this one Ono Street, it is basically a lot of passengers travelling just between the 2. So I've set up a second bus line that just runs between these 2 stops, and that has balanced it out just a little, as we can see right there. Now that new bus service is profitable, which is fantastic, as we can see 17,000. So we now have 3 buses or 3 carts on each of the lines in Uwajima, 3 just running between these 2 stops, and the other 3 obviously completing the full circuit of the city. So here we can see our trains pass for the first time as our stone delivery train makes its way over to the freight exchange at Uwajima Industrial Park. Let's just quickly head back up here and see the state of affairs on the platform. Okay, here comes the stone delivery now. All 3 of them, again, relatively closely packed together, but that's fine. But at least we know we're going to have at least a little bit of stone waiting for the train when it arrives back. Now for this second journey, we'll probably and most likely hold the train on the platform until it has the full load that we are looking for. We can see it's just departed there, and how much money did it make on that first delivery? Bearing in mind obviously it only dropped off 14 units, so it wasn't a full load. And it's made us 150,000, so not a great deal of money, but it's only a short train, and even that short train wasn't fully loaded anyway. So we'll see what happens when we're starting to deliver full loads, but we are going to want to expand that train as soon as possible. And I think what we'll do, as soon as this train makes its next delivery over at Uwajima, we'll use the income from the train to start expanding our stone haulage train as well. And then that should start bringing in extra income for us, which is always nice. As I said, what we can also do is put a few signals down on each passing loop, perhaps at the halfway point, and that should hopefully speed up our trains departing at a waiting signal. And that's obviously going to increase our line frequency and rates, and that's also going to increase our income. So the first stone haulage road vehicle is on its way back now for its 3rd full load. We obviously have 12 at the station. We can figure that out quite easily. 4 times 3 is 12. So when this one gets back, we're going to have 16. So again, it's not going to be a full load straight away, so there's going to be a little bit of waiting around for this train, but that's fine. As I'm sure you're all well aware, while your train is waiting at a platform, you pay a lot less maintenance costs for that train, so it's actually a bit of a money saver to have it waiting around. Now, as things start to settle in, we can look at increasing the amount of road vehicles we have coming from the quarry down to here, as well as, like I said, increasing the length of this train so we're getting more money per delivery that it happens to make. So other than that, it is just a case of having to wait around. That's the problem with the early game. Your trains are very, very weak in terms of their power, so you can't really overload them without really starting to drag the performance down. Obviously, if you start unlocking the better locomotives, that's all going to change. Okay, there we go. So we now have 131,000. So I think the first thing we're going to look to do is double up the amount of vehicles we have hauling the stone down from here. So we're not going to do it by clicking that. We're going to do it by clicking this. So if we'll double it straight away to 6, and can we afford to double it again to 12? No, we can't. But we can probably get up to about 10 or not. What about an extra 2? There we go. So that's now 8 running that line. So the throughput on the stone is going to be a lot higher, and we're going to see a lot less waiting around on the train thanks to that higher throughput. And here come the 5 new vehicles on their way. So they're going to have to space themselves out, which again is going to cause a bit of a hold up on our rice delivery trains. They're not trains, they're horse and carts. Speaking of trains, the stone train is now making its first full delivery, so it'll be interesting to see what sort of income that makes from a full delivery. Our rice train, or the food train, is on its way back. So we're probably going to see this train waiting at this signal until obviously he comes through and clears the switch, and that should free him up to head all the way through to Iwo. In fact, I think what we'll do is we'll hop on board and just wait for the train to come thundering on through. It's going to look impressively fast because we're still at 4 times time acceleration, of course, but that's no problem. And here it comes now. We can see it just emerging from the tunnel ahead. We now have clearance, and away we go. So the next upgrade for our vehicles is going to be this train. Now that we have extra stone vehicles running, we should see a lot less waiting around for that train, and I dare say that when he returns up here, he's going to have a full load of stone waiting for him, so we are going to want to start upgrading it. We could also think about upgrading this train if we wanted to. However, we'll probably be pushing the limits of the train's capability even with a double-headed locomotive, and I'm reluctant to add a third locomotive at this point, and rather wait until we start unlocking the ones with a little bit more oomph behind them. Another thing we could think about doing is putting a second drop-off point here, and what we'd likely do is have it right outside this station. That would mean our stone delivery trains, again they're not trains, they are horse and carts. Yes, the stone delivery horse and carts would drop off here, and then we'd encourage them to loop around here and come straight on through. That means we're not going to have any backlog on our rice horse and carts, not trains, while these are spacing themselves out, because now that we have 5 arriving in quick succession, we're going to see a bit of a backlog here, because these 5 are going to naturally want to space themselves out, and we can see it now, it's starting to hold everybody up. Of course, once they are spaced out, it shouldn't be a problem, and they should then start to depart almost immediately, like we just saw that rice horse and cart do right there. Almost said train again. I don't know why I keep thinking these are trains. We're supposed to call it a wagon train. Well, there was only one of them, so it doesn't really qualify, I suppose. But yes, as we can see, 23 units of stone on the platform, so that's going to be enough for a full load when our stone train does make its way back, and here it comes now. No waiting around that time, which is fantastic. So we've got our big money earner. Well, I say big, relatively speaking, it is a big money earner, but later on it's probably not going to be one of our money earners at all. Regardless, she's just about to come on side now. Yes, I've just changed from he to she. We can just call it, I suppose, if we wanted to. But there we go, 220,000. That should be enough to bump up the amount of carriages that this train is hauling. Given that we've only got one locomotive, however, we're probably going to drop into the poor category, and indeed we are. However, that isn't unnecessarily poor. We can't afford it anyway. And there we go, so that's going to bump it up a little. It is going to slow the train down, but that's fine. So again, we'll add that wagon. So that's now, is that 28 capacity it now has? Indeed it is. And hopefully we'll have enough for a full load. Yeah, we've got 35, so that train's not going to be waiting around. With a full load it made 250,000, so its next full load is going to be a little bit higher than that because of the increased capacity, of course. So we'll keep an eye on that. As we can see, we've now got this backlog here thanks to this shared platform, and our stone haulage wagons starting to space themselves out. So it might be an idea, like I said, just to put a quick one down here, just so there's that they're not causing each other to trip up like we saw just a few moments ago. Right, so that train was in and out nice and quickly on that occasion, as we saw. Where's the food delivery train itself? Just coming through our series of tunnels. So again, the passing loop should mean that both trains can pass through without having to wait for one another, which is always a good thing. Keeps things flowing nice and smoothly, of course. There we go, yep. The wonders of passing loops for you. Alright, so let's slow it all down now, and we'll pause the date progression because I think it's about time we end this episode. I'm not sure how long the episode's going to be in total because I had to cut obviously a lot of waiting around out, so it might be quite short, so I apologise for that. For our cab ride today, I think we'll hop on board one of our quote-unquote buses over here in Uwajima, and that way we can have a good look at the town as we take a ride through on this horse and cart. So still looking very, very early era. Obviously we are only in, I think it's 1851 at the moment, so we're not going to see any impressive high rises, of course. But yes, we'll enjoy the slow and steady ride through this still relatively quaint town, although it is definitely the largest town on the map at this point. I think when I looked while I was waiting for the cash to build up, we're sat at around 800 residents. Now, because I removed that natural town growth mod, we're not going to see massive cities. Obviously, Uwajima is going to be the largest one. It is the one we're treating as our capital and our central nexus, if you will, of our network. But other than that, we're not going to see huge metropolises like perhaps we did in Calgary on the Canada playthrough, or Coventry in the very first series that I did, or of course Portishead and West Ham last time out. So I hope you're enjoying these series so far. It's obviously a bit slower paced, a bit more easy going, of course. And there is going to be a fair bit of waiting around in the early game and quite a few use of jump cuts while we wait for the cash to expand our network. But once we get on our feet and we hit that snowball effect, I think we're going to be laughing all the way to the bank. So if you are enjoying the series and you enjoyed the episode, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button down below, and if you'd like to subscribe to the channel to show your support, then you can also do that as well. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave you with a nice little journey through Uwajima, and all that remains for me to say is, as always, take very good care of yourselves. It's ta-ta for now.